Hey everyone, I'm Ariel, an artist here on YouTube, and this video is about finding my way back to my art practice after taking over a year off. My art journey has been full of stops and starts, but today I want to share with you how I got here and why this moment is so important to me. If you've ever felt disconnected from your art, this video is for you. Be sure to subscribe and watch the journey unfold and learn how to improve your own art along the way. While we chat today, I will be continuing a page in my sketchbook full of little fall paintings that I've been making with gouache paint. I will have all the colors and the brand that I use listed below in the description if you're curious and want to get them yourself. Okay, so I guess we'll start at the very beginning, like childhood beginning. So, like everyone else, I enjoyed painting and drawing, etc. as a child. It was just another thing that I did among many different hobbies, I guess you would call them. My parents made me my first easel. Yes, they made it. My dad built it and my mom painted and decorated it, which I think is just the sweetest thing. But art wasn't something that I took seriously. I just did it whenever an adult presented the opportunity to. Like if it was in a class or if my mom brought out some coloring supplies at home, things like that. Later into high school, I started taking more serious art classes for fun, and I even took a summer school course on photography just to squeeze in some more art classes. At the time, I didn't realize how much I actually was enjoying art, but obviously with how many classes I was taking revolving around art, it was starting to become a pretty big part of my life. I really just didn't think much about it. I simply just enjoyed drawing and painting, and I certainly didn't identify as an artist. It wasn't until my senior year of high school in my AP studio art class that we had taken a tour of a local art college. And that was the first time that I'd ever realized that being an artist was something you could actually do as a career, and it didn't need to just stop at being my hobby. My teacher on that trip encouraged me to apply, so I thought, why not? I, at the time, really didn't have any other plans for after high school. I was considering becoming a makeup artist and kind of looking into that, but nothing was really set in stone. So I figured, well, if I get in, great, and if I don't, that's fine. I wasn't expecting to anyways. But to my surprise, I did. And ever since that moment, my life has been changed forever. Just as I was starting college, Instagram was just starting to gain popularity. So I made an art account. I'm probably dating myself, but this was about 2014. So if any of you remember what that was like, Instagram just wasn't that serious. It was genuinely just for sharing posts, kind of like we do on Facebook. And because of that, I didn't really take it that seriously. For over 8 years, I had that art account on Instagram, but I was never really consistent. Like I said, nobody really took their accounts that seriously. At first, it was just all for fun, a way to document my art while I was in college. I'd basically just post something when I finished it and really didn't give much thought to strategy or building a brand. During my last year in school, I had actually signed myself up for my first public art showcase, and I remember promoting it on my Instagram, and this was the first time that I was actually using social media as a tool rather than just for fun and just to share my art when I felt like it. I used it to let people know about the show, tell them what it was going to be about, and I used it to even sell tickets. I sold about 20 of them, and I was really proud of myself. It was the first time that I'd been pretty consistent on social media. After that event, though, I went right back to my consistent inconsistency. My posts were sporadic, and I went back to my old routine of just posting when I felt like it. I'd do things like join challenges like Inktober, but I would never finish them, and I'd post a few drawings or paintings and then just disappear. So fast forward through that last year, and now I have graduated college and I became an art teacher. And even though I was surrounded by creativity every day, my own art officially took a backseat. I spent so much time and energy creating a space for my students to thrive that I neglected my own practice. And somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that I couldn't even be a real artist because I was just an art teacher. But lucky for me, my husband never let me forget who I was. He always made sure I had a dedicated space in our home to create, even when I wasn't consistently using it. He believed in me even when I had forgotten to believe in myself. I really do think that I would have given up on art a long time ago if it weren't for him pushing me to get back to it each time I went astray. So now I'd been teaching for a couple of years, and fast forward to the year of 2022, I had gotten pregnant with my first child. And that is really where my art had a dramatically positive change in my life. And the crazy thing is, it honestly feels like it happened totally on accident. I'd been working on a sample portrait drawing for my middle school students, and I decided on a whim just to post a reel of it. And to my surprise, it blew up. Okay, like, it didn't blow up necessarily, but it got something like 200 likes. And I was used to the typical 8 to 13 likes on my post. So that was the most attention I'd ever gotten on my work. And maybe we can debate in the comments whether or not it's a good thing that getting attention for my art was what sparked me to start making more art. But it's what worked, okay? And I'm not ashamed that it happened this way. It just is what it is. Anyways, the attention that this one post was getting sparked something in me. It's the something that made me think, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can make my art a real part of my life. I started making it a priority to work on my art at least a few times a week, and I got way more active on Instagram and Facebook and even TikTok. And on Instagram, I grew from 300-ish followers to over 1,500 followers in 1 year. And that may not be the success story that everyone wants to hear, the whole, I got 10,000 followers in 30 days. But for me, it was exciting. And I thought the progress in my art community was amazing, considering that I was learning everything social media for the first time at the same time as working on my art and having a full-time job. Oh, and being pregnant. So needless to say, things were going really well. I was feeling very optimistic about my art page. But then life happened. And not necessarily in a bad way, but just in a very real way. My son was born. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me. But I was learning my new role as a mother, and I had underestimated the demands of a newborn. I had warned my followers that I was going to slow down right before my son was born. I let them know that I wouldn't be posting as often, but I would get back to our routine fairly quickly once I got my bearings, I guess. But the truth is, I just disappeared again. And between the exhaustion of being a new mother and the guilt of not creating, that old feeling of procrastination and feeling stuck started to creep back in. So I decided to give myself some grace, and I promised myself that when my son turned 6 months old, I would return to my art. But I just needed the time to take the break. And then life continued to happen in the most unimaginable way possible. Just about a week before my son turned 6 months old, my father passed away. And of course it was devastating, but it was also traumatic and like very unexpected. I'm sure most deaths are unexpected, but this was really unexpected. And everything in my world just stopped. So I dropped everything at home, and my son and I moved in with my mother for a few weeks to be close to family during this time. And I truly couldn't think about much other than just getting through the day during this time, understandably. And I truly couldn't think about much other than just taking care of my son and getting through the day. Understandably, art was just the furthest thing from my mind at this point. After a few weeks, it was about January, I moved back in. I moved back home, my son and I did. And I wasn't sure if I'd ever go back to art. It felt very triggering to even think about it because my parents were such huge supporters of my art and my whole art career. When I, on a whim, applied to an art college, they were thrilled and very supportive and so excited when I got in. And being in my parents' home for those few weeks, I saw all of the paintings that my dad had collected from me over the years hung around his space. And I don't know, I saw art as a sad thing and something that made me sadder versus something that could help me heal through this process. At least that's just how it felt at the time. But I'm going to go more into that in my next video. So if you want to hear more about that, I guess subscribe, and in 2 weeks I will be sharing that portion of the story. But anyways, a few months went by. It was about August, No, it was about July. And something really simple and unexpected changed everything yet again for me. My husband had been pushing me to get back in the studio and encouraging me to paint, but I kept pushing it off and I kept kind of avoiding it. But then my sister-in-law, my husband's sister, asked me if I would paint something small for a gift for a wedding that she was going to attend. And at first I was hesitant because it had been so long and I really wasn't in the right headspace, like I said, to start painting again. And on top of that, it had been over a year since I'd drawn anything, and I was just really worried it wouldn't turn out well. I was worried it wouldn't be good enough. But I really didn't want to tell her no, and I wanted to make her happy, so I agreed to do it. And I wasn't expecting much out of this. I was just going to paint it and be done, was my thought. But that small and simple project sparked that little something in me again that I just couldn't ignore. This painting wasn't my best work, but it was exactly what I needed to remind myself why I create, why I paint, why I do art. And she probably doesn't even realize what doing that small little painting ended up doing for me and for my mental state, and how it has just catapulted me right back into my creative practice. So Amanda, if you're listening, thank you. Thank you so much. Anyways, being forced to get back in my studio on almost a daily basis to make sure this painting was done in time for her, it became apparent that the guilt of not creating had been weighing on me way more than I even realized. Since getting back to my art, even my husband has said that he's noticed a positive difference in me. And while I would have loved to have never stepped away from my art in the first place, the fact is I needed to. And that's okay. It's okay to let life happen. What matters is that we come back. And coming back this time just feels so different. I can feel this small flame that has always been burning inside me to create, growing faster than ever before. This time, I'm not fighting with my ego or my fears or the excuses of I just have too much going on. I mean, I chose to start this for real when I had a 16-month-old and another one due in 6 weeks. Not that those aren't valid reasons to take breaks, they certainly are. But for me personally, I've been there, I've done that, and now I'm ready. There's truly nothing I'm willing to let hold me back. So here I am, diving headfirst back into this journey, and this time I'm going bigger than ever before, hence starting the YouTube channel. I've redefined what art means to me. It's no longer something that I just do for fun. While it is a lot of fun, it's a crucial part of who I am. My art is my identity. And this channel will be where I share that journey with all of you. If you're still here and still listening, thank you. I really appreciate you giving me a small chunk of your busy life to share my story. And hopefully you found it inspirational or helpful or maybe even very relatable. Because if you're like me, if you've stepped away from your art for too long or what feels like too long, or maybe you haven't given yourself permission to fully embrace it, I just want you to know that it's never too late. You can always come back to it. And when you do, just give yourself grace and patience and ease into it and allow yourself to not feel the pressure of creating for other people, but realizing that you create for yourself and it's a part of who you are. So again, thank you for being here and listening to my story of finding my way back to my art after a year. I can't wait to share more with you in the future. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that our paths can cross again. Until next time.